I've discovered my wife of 23 years has been cheating on me with driving instructor for what I believe to be maybe 2 or 3 months. Hi all, so I'm in the UK and I've discovered my wife, F38, has been cheating on me, M40, for what I believe to be maybe 2 or 3 months. We have been together for 23 years and married for 11. It was with her driving instructor who was also teaching our eldest daughter to drive and I was paying for the lessons. He, M41, is also married with 2 small children. I had my suspicions for some time with her change in behavior from hair wash days being scheduled on driving lesson days. The way she'd dress for a driving lesson, going over the time on a lesson amongst other examples, I could tell they liked each other. Apparently they both admitted this to each other but didn't do anything about it for some time. One such example was staying out later on nights out, so on this particular night and waited outside the bar she was drinking at and saw them kissing and leave hand in hand. I attacked him from behind and confronted them both. I went home and informed her parents and proceeded to put all her stuff in our porch. I also woke my teenage children to tell them. He phoned his wife that night to tell her that he was leaving her for my wife. They then went to stay a couple of nights in a hotel and then stayed in a very dodgy bed and breakfast. Since then, my anger has waned. I spoke to her on one day alone. The next day she saw me and the children. We spoke normally, as if nothing had happened. Just as if we were a normal family. I had then spoken to her on several occasions. She has now decided to end it with him. I picked her up from her bed and breakfast and took her to her mum's. I stupidly gave her the impression that I would have her back. She is now staying there, which is only over the road from where I live with my children. The children do not want her back in the house, and I must admit I'm not sure we can work through this. She has shown little remorse for what she has done, and the added level of evil deceit behind it leaves me struggling to come to terms with it. During the affair I was insecure and paranoid, even Googling the supplements I was taking to see if any of them give you paranoia. I was so close to ringing the doctors to seek help, and I was apologizing to her for my behavior when all along she was doing what she was doing. My heart says to try again, but my head says, how? He's a driving instructor that lives locally and will be seen all the time. I just don't know how she will cut him out of her life. Now she's at her mum's, which is small, and they are set in their ways. They will soon put pressure on for her to return here, which at present is not a good idea. I feel like she only gave up on him because of the place they were staying in. They had originally planned to save some money and move out together. I don't think that would ever have happened. I think it was all some fantasy, as when they were caught they were not prepared at all. She has been a completely different person of late, and she has admitted that and made me and my children's lives hell. My eldest daughter went through mental health issues and a serious eating disorder, and now my youngest has the same issues. My wife's reaction to that was, I can't go through this again. I've done it once. I'm not doing it again. This gives some indication as to her mental state of mind. She had become consumed with her own importance and no one else mattered. Now she is at rock bottom mentally, but still shows little remorse. I believe she is only sorry she was caught and ended up in the position she is in. She has a lot to prove, and I don't think she has it in her to try. I don't know if to cut my losses and just accept it's over or to try. My parents divorced as my mom cheated on my dad, and it left my family in a right mess to this day. If I try, I'd have to accept living with the insecurities and paranoia I've lived with for the last few months. For some background, our relationship was not perfect, but I had been trying to be more spontaneous over the course of the last few months. We were going out more with friends and together. I feel she had already closed herself off from that. I also suffer with some ED, porn-induced I believe it to be, which has hampered things in the bedroom. She also has issues with my family due to things said and done in the past, which puts pressure on our relationship. I had not spoken to my family in 3 years for her and only recently started talking again. I changed jobs 3 years ago and was traveling, which too, put pressure on our relationship. However, since the pandemic hit I have been working from home. We also moved house 2 years ago into an older house that needed some work and continues to be a work in progress. I think this may also put pressure on her and lead to her being unhappy. She started wanting her own independence, learning to drive, getting a job. She had been a housewife for a majority of our time together. I don't believe this to be a result of the affair. I think it was just purely a change in her thinking. If I think of anything to add, I'll make an edit, but I think that about covers it. Any thoughts would be much appreciated. Update. Thank you to all those that provided comments, support and advice on my original post, and to those that have reached out since and been asking about me. I truly am grateful for your kind thoughts throughout this difficult time. Well, what a difference a week can make. Today marks 4 weeks since DD and I feel like a different man. I don't know why I was considering reconciliation with someone as narcissistic as my wife. I've had a great time with friends, met and made a lot of new friends, particularly women. It has been eye-opening. I have booked to go and watch a lot of live music, which is something I never did previously. I have a date on Friday with someone who I really like and she really likes me. I can't believe the change in my mentality. I no longer message my wife. I respond if she messages me but don't tell her anything about my life. Me and my children are having a great time with plans keeping us busy. I no longer look to the future. I find myself taking each day as it comes and living for the moment. I spent too long throughout my life always looking to the future, thinking I'll be happy when this happens or happy once we do this. I lost sight of the now. I don't really think of my wife as often, and if I do, it's just thoughts of why, but I don't think I'll ever have an answer for that. For those considering reconciliation, I really hope it works for you. My story just has too much deceit, disrespect, and just plain evilness about it for reconciliation to ever be successful. I'm grateful I've come to that realization as early as I have. There will no doubt be several twists and turns as time moves on, and I hope I don't go soft on her if she ever attempts to reconcile, as I can see a bright future right now, one that I cannot see with her in it. Thanks again all. I will keep you updated. Good luck. Update. I think I messed up. So after what felt like a positive week last week from my previous post, I am now back to square one. On the eve of my wife moving into her flat, she came around to the house to talk. She had discovered that I was going on a date, and I have every feeling that is why she came. We embraced and had sex. My head was truly messed up after this. She said she wanted me, so I cancelled my date and quickly decided that reconciliation was on the cards. The next morning she called and was scared about moving into her flat and didn't know what to do. I think part of her wanted me to say, "Come home," and I think she was too scared to ask. I told her I think it would be the right decision to move into the flat. She went ahead with it. I visited her and stayed the night. I have since stayed on several occasions, one of which she was out with friends and I was at a bar. She left her friends and came and met me. We went for a few drinks and ended up back at hers again. We had several discussions during these nights about her affair. Some information was not very nice to hear. The last night I stayed, I chose to tell her about my porn addiction. I thought that if we are going to attempt reconciliation, then it would only be fair for her to know. I've wanted her to know for so long, as it has hampered our love life, and I truly believe I suffer with pride. As it happens, I've not touched porn or masturbated since I found out about her affair. She took this badly, and now I'm not so sure if we are trying or not. Things change daily. She insists she has frozen out AP, but obviously I have my doubts. She gives small indications that reconciliation is on her mind. I now feel like I have dived headfirst into a pick-me dance which I had no intention of getting involved in. I'm so disappointed in myself. I felt confident that I could walk away, but when it came to it I just couldn't do it. If there is a small chance of saving a 23-year relationship, then should I be taking it, or is what she has done unsalvageable? I know that she is of the mindset that she just can't stand the thought of me with anyone else, despite the fact that she may not want me herself. She also probably wants to continue to have her cake and eat it. She's given little reassurances, and I have to trust what she is telling me. I have no proof that she is not still in contact with the AP, and no reassurances that she wants to reconcile. What have I gotten myself into? Update. I'm having real difficulty in getting my wife to cut contact with her AP. For whatever reason, she won't let go. We are still early days into our, but she wants to hand her notice in at the flat she is staying at and come home. She's been here for over the last week, but she's still in contact with AP over WhatsApp. We've had several arguments about it, to the point that this morning I've told her I'm done trying and I've asked her to go back to the flat. I don't know what else I can do. Any tips? But also any advice from any WS as to what might be her thinking here. She says it's not the same and it's like texting a coworker. It's not often, but it's still too much for my liking. I'm insisting on her killing it and going and see. He was her driving instructor, so it's bad enough seeing him driving around, let alone knowing they are still in touch. Update. I'm curious as to what extreme lengths people have gone to in attempting to lift the affair fog. I applied and paid for divorce and told my wife to her face I want a divorce. Went 180 in Grey Rock. This seemed to work pretty effectively. So since I put my divorce application in 4 weeks ago, things have been going well and improving daily between me and my WW. She has stayed mostly at the family home and we've been dating and doing family things. My WW wants to hand her notice in at the flat she is staying at and wants to come back home permanently. This morning I told her that if she wants to do that then she needs to block the AP. They are not in contact, or at least it is very limited contact. She told me that she could just unblock him though. She is unwilling to block him as it seems mean. I just don't get her thinking. If this is what she wants, why is she unwilling to remove him from our lives permanently? She continues to put his feelings before mine. I feel like we're at a permanent sticking point regarding this issue and it will never be resolved. I've already gone for the most extreme option in filing for divorce and don't know what else to do besides turf her out again and send her back to the flat, which I don't want to do as things have been going well. She started reading some literature I've given her, so hopefully time will improve things further. However, I feel very impatient with her. Do I give her the time she needs to get over her feelings for him, which I know might never happen if they remain in contact, or do I stand firm and tell her this is not up for discussion and one message between them will lead to divorce? How lenient do I be given the situation? She is not coming around to my way of thinking, or at least she is, but very slowly. Has anybody else dealt with this in a wayward and what helped? Update. So I confronted my WW at the weekend with her phone. I don't want to get into the ins and outs of how, but the why is pretty obvious. I've been monitoring it for a few weeks now. She had blocked AP, but her conversation with her friend is telling. A lot of lies, half-truths, and fantasy, although she tells me that the messages don't tell the whole story as there are conversations I'm not aware of. I'm not entirely convinced that is true. For instance, one set of messages tells how I was blocked when I wasn't, because that night I was at her flat having takeaway with her. Things she says to her friend about the AP and the things they talk about me are upsetting. My WW does not seem to speak of the good times we have together. He's made out to be Prince Charming and I'm made out to be the husband from hell. Domestic violence abuser is what her friend makes me out to be. I didn't help myself by admitting I had been monitoring her phone. I played that card far too early. Her friend is not a friend of our marriage, which I was already aware of. Her own marriage ended because she had an affair. She is remarried but not to her AP, not a very good example. Their conversations center around the AP, and I just don't know how we will ever move on if she is still talking about him to her. My WW puts it down to girl talk. Now we're in a pretty dark place. I don't trust her and now she doesn't trust me. As far as her goes, she won't consent to access to her phone. She won't allow tracking. She shows little remorse and never asks how I am. She seems still deep in the fog. Whilst the AP has been at home since January, he wears his wedding ring and his BW has changed her profile pic on social media to a recent lovely family pic. I know things won't be all rosy and it's all a front, but it just seems so unfair. She is being lovely to him while we are living a nightmare. I don't know where to go with this. We had a conversation where we both came to the conclusion that separation was the only way. We chose to sleep on it and both woke up the next day in floods of tears and didn't want to follow through on it. I know a lot of people will tell me to give up on our, but I feel like we haven't explored every option as yet. We have not looked into counseling. I have been reading and so has she, to be fair. She even took our wedding rings in to get them cleaned and mine extended as a surprise for our next wedding anniversary, so there are signs that she wants our, but just not enough. This is so tough. Update. For a long time I've felt that my WW has not been putting the effort required for our. For those that know my story, I don't have to go into detail regarding her actions up to this point, but it's been turbulent. She asks what she wants from me and I don't honestly know. I just need to feel loved by her. I suppose this in itself may take time. During our last heated exchange she told me that she'd be willing to do counseling. Both individually and as a couple. This is so not like her. To suggest and also be willing to go. She is unwilling to sign the divorce papers until we've tried everything possible to save our marriage. This took me back and has had me thinking, maybe she really does want this marriage to succeed. It's the first sign whereby I've felt that maybe she is trying in her own way. Maybe I've been too hard. I can be impatient at times and I go from one extreme to another. One week we go on dates, spend all our time together, then the next week I'm asking her to leave, sign the divorce papers and let's separate. That can be caused by the smallest of triggers or her not doing what I'd expect of her. It's exhausting for me, so it must equally be exhausting for her. I know I need help to figure out methods of dealing with my emotions so I don't go off at the deep end on a regular basis. Maybe I do need to be patient and let time do the natural healing we both need. Sorry, it's not really a post expecting a response. I'm just jotting down my own thoughts as they come to me. But thank you to everyone on this community. Your support has been immeasurable.